Welcome to We in Lewes, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people who live in Lewes and are helping our community forge a collective soul as appealing as it is unique. These are their stories in their words. They are the we in Lewes. I'm your host, Kevin McGinnis. As always, Steve Esfandieri is manning the soundboard in our new luxurious recording studio, which, when we're not recording, doubles as the bar at Kindle. Today, we're sharing with you another mini-cast, basically the amuse-bouche of the podcast world. As sports fans who can see beyond the NFL know, the Major League Baseball postseason has just started. Casual fans are starting to tune in. Diehard loyalists of the 18 clubs that didn't make the playoffs are back to their annual litany of complaints. Baseball has lost its soul. The games are corporate junkets and not family-friendly. The game is supposed to be a sport, not entertainment. And the big one, I'm so tired of it all, I'll never go to another game until next year. I feel your pain, my friend. I grew up a fan of the Washington Senators. Things were so miserable that the team fled town twice. Imagine, it was so bad that the team dumped me before I could dump them. If you've been one of those unfortunate souls that's been condemned to root for teams that always find a way to destroy your dreams, or teams like the Athletics, the White Sox, or the Rockies. But I repeat myself, today we offer hope. That's right, hope. There's an alternative waiting for you. It's called Vintage Baseball, a league that plays by the rules that were in place in the 1860s. And it turns out the Lewes Vintage Baseball Club, yes, our own hometown team, is the current reigning champion. Think of it. Instead of being perpetually trapped in the family curse, you can root for a champion. And it gets even better. In vintage baseball, no $100 million contracts. Tickets don't cost more than your car. They cost nothing. Parking's free. The uniforms are vintage. Yes, nothing breathable, but all the buttons are used. The umpire stands to the side where he can't ruin a game with ridiculous balls and strike calls. And get this, the players drink between innings out of a tin cup, and I'm pretty sure they're not drinking Gatorade. Gatorade wouldn't be invented for another century. Mike DiPaolo, a previous guest and a man who knows this town better than most, is one of the players on and founders of the Lewes Club. He's basically our own Connie Mack. He is also proof that you can stay loyal to your soul-wrenching MLB team, in his case, the Cleveland Indians, poor thing, and at the same time, root for a champion. We previously asked Mike to explain what makes vintage baseball such a great game to watch. Here's what he shared. What led to the formation of the Lewes Baseball Club?
Well, that's just my love of baseball and history and getting to do both. As a matter of fact, just on Saturday, we won the Delaware State Championship.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We swept Delaware City.
Finally.
In a doubleheader. We brought it back. So we won it in 23. We brought it back. Lost it last year. Brought it back this year. Thrilling game one. By the way. We were up, I think, 7-3, and then Diamond State scored 4 in the 8th. We held them in the 9th, and then we won it in the 10th. It was a great game, and then we beat them 6-2 in the second game. So it was a great weekend. But I love baseball. I grew up a huge Cleveland Indians fan. Now the Cleveland Guardians. Love the Orioles and the Phils too, but they'll always be a distant second. Had a chance to go to 2 World Series. Got a chance to go to the 97 World Series, all the postseason in 97, and actually all the postseason in 2016. From the Division Series, the League Championship to the World Series. So had a very close friend who worked for the Athletics, since they're not Oakland anymore, just the Athletics. And she was at that time, each team got their own allotment of tickets, and she was able to get me two of Oakland's tickets for each of the series. So that was just something special. Had a chance to take my son to the 2016 ALCS against Toronto, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, we just started the vintage baseball team with, honestly, I just asked my friends, like, hey, you like baseball? You seem like you're athletic. Do you want to play vintage baseball with us? And guess what? You don't use gloves, and There's a whole bunch of other quirky rules.
Could you briefly explain what the rules are?
So we play by the rules of 1864. And so every December they would meet, and they being baseball clubs in New York, and they would decide what the rules were going to be for the following season. So the rules for 1864, there's no gloves. That wasn't necessarily a rule, but nobody wore fielding gloves, and certainly nobody wore batting gloves. You cannot, some of the most obvious differences are that the pitcher pitches underhand. It's not necessarily meant to be like a soft pitch. There are some people who really wing it in there. Most of the time it is soft. It's actually a lot harder to hit when it's just this giant arcing thing. But the umpire does not have to call balls and strikes. So there's no
the
calls.
Umpire doesn't. He's not behind the catcher, right?
He's not behind the catcher. He's usually off to the side. So you have a whole bunch of no calls, and then you get basically 4 of each. You get a warning for a ball and a warning for a strike, and then you have 3 additional balls or strikes. And 3 strikes, 3 swings, and you're out still. You can't overrun first base. So if it's going to be a bang-bang play, you have to hold the bag. So you'll see a lot of guys slide into first or try to stop. And that's a big difference. And usually in your first game or two, you forget about that. And you think you have this great hit and you run by first and somebody tags you out. And you're like, what just happened? That's a big difference.
And you can, if you catch a ball on a bounce.
That's an out because we don't have gloves. So that was kind of a compromise, one bound or bounce and you're out. And that's also very frustrating when you have a great shot, right? And it's right at the center fielder and they catch it on a bound and you're like, that'd be a hit today. I'd be batting 500 if this were today, but you can't bunt. Another thing that's really confusing is wherever the ball hits first on the ground that's what it is. So if it hits fair and then just goes foul, it's foul. If it starts foul and comes in right away, it's still foul. There's none of this, pass the bag kind of stuff. And so there are some teams and some players especially who try to chop the ball straight down and get it to bound, between first and home or third and home or something. I'm trying to think of some of the other big ones. The ball. So another thing that gets confusing are foul balls. And you have to if you're on base, you have to get back to the base. So one thing that kind of messes people up if you're not coordinating is if you're on first and you steal second and somebody hits a foul ball, you've got to get back to first. So it's really incumbent on the umpire to call foul right away so the base runner can get back. If it's a deep fly ball and you've taken off and you've rounded second and you're on your way to third and the ball lands foul, you've got to hurry back and get back to first base. It's got to go back to the pitcher, not to the pitching area, but it's got to get back to whoever the pitcher is. So usually what they'll do is try to go over and cover first or second, whichever base is in play, and get the person out. So that gets a little exciting. That can get exciting.
You wear vintage clothing, is that right?
Well, we wear vintage style uniforms. The earliest pictures of a Lewes team date to the very late 1800s. And they had on a style uniform that had a big collar, a high collar that actually come up to about my ears if I were to pop it up, sleeves that come down to about your elbows. And they were baggier knickers. Major league players today usually wear really tight pants and things. But back in the 19th century, there were knickers that kind of came right down just below our knees, and we do that. A lot of the teams in the league will they're called shields. And so generally that'd be like just kind of a button down and khakis, so to speak. And then you would have a shield, cloth shield that would have a letter representing your club. If you were from Easton, if you were from Elkton, you'd have a big E on your chest. The team from Easton is called the Fair Plays, and they have an FP on their shield. So that was generally the uniform, but we don't have any pictures or any descriptions of a Lewes team dressed in anything like that. So we go with the earliest evidence that we have. And again, the pictures are probably from like the 1880s. early 1890s. But the first game we could find was from 1874. That's still the earliest known organized baseball game. So 151 years ago, on February 21st, actually. So the weather might have been a little warm. Lewes played Milton, but we don't know who won. We'll assume it was Lewes, but we don't know.
So the bat was wood,
Mm-hmm.
and the ball, is it like a hard ball, or is it made of different material?
No, it's very much like a hard ball. It's probably a slightly larger in circumference. Certainly not as large as a softball, but it might be like a eighth to a quarter of an inch wider in circumference, or bigger in circumference. It is the vintage baseballs that we use today are handmade, so they get softer, easier, but they start off pretty hard. I mean, it's not, somebody hits a line drive at your face, you're thinking twice about whether you want to catch that or not. Everybody's broken fingers. I've broken 3 fingers myself, and but it looks like baseball, smells like baseball. It is baseball until you start to pay attention. You're like, wait a second, what's going on here?
And you don't change the ball every time there's a foul.
We don't. We use the same baseball the entire game.
The entire game, so that softens it up a little bit.
It does. It does. Yeah. By the ninth inning, and the first inning, it's definitely a crack of the bat, and by the ninth inning, it's more of a thud off the bat.
What's in the tin cups?
What's in the tin cups? It depends who you're talking to, but I'll just say our sponsor since the beginning has been Dogfish Head Craft Brewery. So thank you, Dogfish Head.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Now, I know that in your team, nicknames are a big deal. Is that right?
That's right.
And what is your nickname?
My nickname is Oyster.
Oyster.
Oyster. I love oysters.
That's it?
That's it. That's what I got. We got a variety of nicknames, but I love oysters, so that just stuck.
And I believe another guest of the podcast, Shook, he really gets mad if I ever use his first name, was your umpire. And what was his nickname?
Blind Guy.
That sums it up, I think.
That sums it up. The other day I heard somebody call him David, and I was like, who are you?
We were doing a holiday special here, and I said something about David, and he went, and we really appreciate it. He went, who the hell is that? I was like,
that shook. All right.
Thanks again to our good friend Oyster, a.k.a. Mike DiPaolo. Again, the games are played locally at the Village of 5 Points. But remember, vintage also means no seats, no concessions, and no restrooms. Trust me, it's great fun, but you need to plan accordingly, especially if games go into extra innings. Thanks for listening. May your team exceed all your postseason fantasies, unless, of course, you're from San Diego. Have a great week and a spectacular fall. Till next time, from the beautiful bar at the glorious Kindle Restaurant, this has been We in Lewes, the podcast. Go Dodgers.